King County Council member Claudia Balducci, who is, by the way, also running for the position of King County Executive. She goes in and she does this.
I want to only add to this discussion that Assessor Wilson has been called out for the behaviors that underlie this motion for months. He has had the opportunity to speak in public. He has had the opportunity to speak at a variety of public and private meetings. He has been given the opportunity to speak through the press, and he has chosen not to. He has chosen not to deny any of the accusations. In fact, I believe them all to be true. He doesn't claim that they're not. And he has routinely pointed at his accusers and said, talk to them. There is a cycle of control and manipulation that underlies domestic violence and stalking and harassing behaviors like we are seeing from our county assessor that I think should cause us to be very, very assertive in our willingness to stand up and say we don't accept it. We don't accept it in people who work for us, let alone people in positions of authority over other people who have been voted into office in a position of public trust and have betrayed that trust. If we want to come back next week and hear whatever case might be made, I suppose that's what we will do, but I am prepared to move forward, along with the majority of my colleagues on this council who have already individually spoken out and called for Assessor Wilson's immediate resignation. I think we should just go ahead and do it. I don't think there's any real due process interest here. An elected office is a privilege, not a right, and this is a statement.
I don't think you give up your fourth on this, but anyway. So she's saying she said she has every reason to believe, whatever she's supposed to believe. She throws in the word domestic violence included in this thing.
There's never been any domestic violence. And John, this is what I find so...
One last part of it, you then filed an ethics complaint against her because...
Correct.
Right, because she's running against you.
This is a blatant violation of county ethics to use public facilities, public means in that, in order to wage her campaign. And that's all this is all about. And look, the audacity of her to come at me about domestic violence when she doesn't know my family history. Both of my daughters have been victims of domestic violence. I've seen the pain. I've seen it in their eyes. I've had them crying in my arms because they've been victims of domestic violence. So I take this incredibly seriously. And the outrageous conduct of Ms. Balducci for purely political reasons to throw this down and deny me my very constitutional right of due process, presumption of innocence, and the rule of law, which she loves to rant about, but will not apply to somebody who's her political opponent. Well, shame on her.
So, by the way, domestic violence, that's a criminal charge she's throwing at you.
And there has never been any domestic violence. And my fiance has acknowledged that. She has a number of times when we've been in counseling sessions, no, I wasn't afraid of John Fear. I lost it. And this is the third time that she has taken some action like this, and each and every time she has withdrawn it before it ever went to court. What Ms. Balducci is entirely basing her position on is simply the inflamed rhetoric by Ms. Keller's attorney and no opportunity for me in a legal setting to set the record straight.
Ms. Keller being your
former fiance.
Former fiance. Okay. So is Ms. Keller being influenced politically?
I'm not going to talk about her right now. I think the important...
But that is the linchpin of this whole thing, right? If the restraining orders weren't against you and if the text messages weren't released and all this stuff, we would not be talking about this. We'd be talking about you running for King County Council.
Ms. Keller and I have had long conversations over the 4 years we were together about my desire to run for county executive. She had been enthusiastically supportive of it. And in fact, enthusiastically supportive of it, I understand, literally 2 weeks ago. And that. So, but she is now being used as a cudgel to try to have Ms. Balducci beat one of her opponents who she's fearful of. Balducci's scared I'm going to beat her in the primary, and by God, I will. because the public deserves a right to have a say in who is going to be their next county executive. And what she's talking about is both denying me my rights and denying the public. When I raise my right hand and take an oath to office to adhere to the state constitution, I did that as a solemn pledge, but I did not totally give up my rights. But she also took that same oath of office to honor the state constitution and the federal constitution that includes the presumption of innocence and due process. And here, her lawyer, Mr. Zahale, a lawyer, both toss it to the curb and decide to treat me as judge, jury, and executioner. And shame on them. And I think the public's smart enough to know the just brazen political stunt this is.
Right. If you listen to her words, she's saying, you have the right to defend yourself, but before that, let's get you kicked out of here.
Yeah, and
yeah, but I mean, if I don't know what jury it goes to, I don't know what the charges are that would need to move.
Ms. Balducci should be kicked out of office for the gross, incompetent management of Sound Transit and the billions of dollars she's wasted in taxpayers' money and shot down the drain while trumpeting how great it is for a minuscule ridership. That's who should be run out of office.
Well, she could be run out of office if you beat her, right? So you got the primary. There's
Damn
three
straight.
of you running.